whenever this war is over, the victory will have been won by you. With the uniform you wear, the chevrons on your sleeves, and the instincts in your guts, and the blood on your boots, we will sail across God's vast ocean, where we will meet our enemy and make the difference between freedom of the world and its enslavement.
You fought bravely for your country. You found in one another a bond that exists only in combat.
Every man that's wounded, every man I lose, I have to believe that it's all worthwhile because our cause is just.
I don't know. The odds were all against you. It was more or less like being in death row in a penitentiary waiting on your turn and you knew it was coming.
You fly a real tough mission, and you're so glad to get back, and everybody says, boy, we made it through that one, didn't we? And then next morning they come in, put the flashlight in your face. All right, boys, get up. You're gonna be leaving. We're gonna be flying in 2 hours. Now that's tough.
I was 21 years old, yeah, and we felt like we could live forever. Don't get me wrong, we still get that tight feeling when we would see bursting flak nearby, when we see fighters. We still get that feeling, but you can't make a living that way. All you could do is make a dying.
Anybody said they weren't afraid, we're full of crap. Because you were always afraid what was going to happen next, particularly in flak. You just waited for something to go off around you. And that's when the fighters would come up.
One of the men in our crew kept saying, I know I'm not going to make it, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't like to hear that. And he was very concerned because his wife was expecting within a day or two. And the next day they had him flying, which they shouldn't have had. And they took so many men from our crew to fly with him, and they never made it back. They crashed into the channel. And incidentally, and this isn't storytelling, but he was killed the day his son was born.
The war came and we went and did what they told us to do. That's the only thing I know. The Japanese ruined my youth because I was 20 years old or 19 years old. And everything was wonderful, and the Japanese, in one fell swoop, ended all that. and it lasted 4 years.
Well, I can see why they get young fellows to fly to war, or ground, or submarines, and so forth. When you're younger, you feel you can do anything. I think when you get older, you get smarter.
There was a 19-year-old navigator, a Jewish kid, sharp as a tack. And I had some older boys. My bombardier was 26 years old. I was 22, 23.
Oldest man we had in the crew was a Pennsylvania Dutchman, 32 years old. We called him Pappy. 32 years old. Our navigator was 26, and everybody else was anywhere from 22, 23. I can look back now and see why young people are in the war, not older people. Older people got better sense.
Sometimes they say the older you get, the more wiser you get. There weren't too many, I don't think, too much younger than me. I flew every one of my missions at 19. The old man on our crew was our waist gunner. He was 25.
I'll tell you, when we got into this thing, you wanted to fly, and you had a great time training and all that. But when you got over there and got shot at it the first time, you knew you were in deep doo-doo. And you really took life seriously after that.
They said we was going to fly 30 missions. You know, they started out at 25, and then they changed it to 30 when we got there. And then we got 26 missions in, and they give us a week off, and we come back, and they says, you're going to fly 35. And that was kind of a shock.
Well, it seemed like I was flying all the time. There were 40 bomb groups. Our bomb group had a lot of people. I don't know the logistics of keeping the fuel and the ammunition, loading the bombs at night, getting them ready for the next day. I don't know how they did it.
When you're in a position like that, there's no tomorrow. You do everything that you want to do, that you can do, when you feel like doing it. And do it then, because you may not get the chance to do it again.
Wouldn't be unusual. They'd wake you up. The first thing you'd do would be go to the mess hall to eat. The mess hall was all lit up and everybody was laughing and talking, and usually they had Berlin Lynn or whatever her name was on the radio broadcasting. We hadn't been briefed yet. We didn't know where we was going to go, but this lady in Berlin knew where we were going to go, and she says, boys, you've got a tough one today. You're going to so-and-so and so-and-so, and we'll be waiting on you. And so they knew more than we did.
Now, in the Air Force, when we went to the kitchen for breakfast and we were getting, say, eggs, we get powdered eggs. That's what they had. Once in a while, we would get fresh eggs. You could get 2 over easy, and this was a treat. But we knew after a while that when you got fresh eggs, it meant you were going to have a real tough mission. So they gave you fresh eggs. That's the story. We don't want fresh eggs, but we want fresh eggs.
When you go in to get ready for a flight, you go into the locker room and you wore long johns. And then you would wear the heated suit, put that on. And we had gloves that were attached to those. You had to get your gloves into those. They came clear around your ankles too. And then you had your flight suits. Those are the things that you just wore.
And you'd load back on a truck and they'd take you to the area where the debriefing rooms were. So all the crews and everything would be sitting there waiting, and they had a sheet over the wall. They'd pull a sheet back and say, our target today is Germany. The weather looks pretty good as near as we can tell.
One thing always got me about these briefings, the Catholic chaplain, he was back in the corner hearing confessions and giving out communions. So he knew that he was going someplace that he might not come back from. One of the most amazing things of the war, the choreographing of putting 1,100 airplanes together in formation to go over.
We'd all lined up on a perimeter strip that come around to the end of the runway. And the lead ship would taxi you around and line up. And when they fired the flare to take off, that lead ship went down the runway. The next man pulled right up behind him. 30 seconds, he moved. 30 seconds, the third man moved. Every 30 seconds, the plane was going down that runway. That lead plane never got off the ground before that second plane was already running.
Well, we just been out there on the end of the runway and give it full throttle, and you had to have enough speed for it to lift all that load up. You had a full gas load, you had all your ammunition for the guns, and you had the bomb load.
Of course, while you're up there, I could see the sun coming up around the Earth, and I thought that was the most weird thing, to see the sun coming up and it's dark on Earth, you know. But you realize what was happening to you, and then next thing you know, the sun come up, and you see all these airplanes circling, straining, so to speak, to get up to the altitude with a heavy load of bombs.
You had to farm up, and you had a circle you was supposed to fly till you got farmed up with your group, and then there'd be another bomb group over here, and one day we come within 3 or 4 inches of whacking up with another bomb group.
Well, on some of them, when the young pilots had come in as replacements, if I was first man to take off, we'd be up in the air and say 200 or 300 feet climbing. All of a sudden, boom.
See a bright flash, a red flash, and stuff coming down. You knew darn well it was in mid-air collision. And those were scary times as far as getting up.
2 B-17s. One came down right on top of the other. They all went to their death. That's when I started smoking, by the way.
Well, actually, I believe that our officers were closer to their crew than they were with other officers. As a crew, most crews stuck pretty well together. We did a lot together. I don't think we would have appreciated one new man join us. We knew what each man was capable of doing. Each man did his job good, and no one complained.
We were family in the air. You absolutely had to be. We all had our duties.
We just wanted to stay together. And we flew 25 missions as a crew, all of us together.
Your family. Exactly, you have to be. However, I can remember one mission when our flight engineer came out smashed, and I climbed all over him. I said, "What is wrong with you? We depend on one another."
There was a lot of spit and polish by the officers, and that didn't happen. Like you say, we're a family of brothers, and we didn't have time for all that stuff. But there was no saluting and yes sir, no sir, and all that. Each guy was his own guy.
Well, of course, each man would do his job, and we all knew exactly who was going to do what, so to speak. So I knew I had a good crew. And we just got along beautifully.
We had a crew chief that took care of that plane after we got it back off a mission. So the three of us walked that plane, looked at everything on the ground, asked him all the questions we could think of. If there was any little thing that we thought we should pay particular attention to, for him to tell us.
You never flew the same plane all the time. It's just like your car having an ouchie and you take it into Firestone or somewhere to get fixed. They'd work overnight, all night long, trying to patch planes.
As soon as you got in, they would take care of any damage. They would get in the plane and check the engines out, start them up and check them out. They would clean up everything.
Tremendous workers. They were so good. We came back in B-17s with two engines, with the tail fin shot up and busted away, with all kinds of holes in the plane. And in 2 days, that plane was flying missions again.
Well, we had armor on our crew, and he'd be there when it was, most cases, not all cases, sometimes the plane would be loaded before we ever got there.
The armor gunners took care of all of that. They burned out on big carriers, and it was a dangerous job.
We did not load the bombs, no, but we did come out and check.
fused, and they had fusing wires stuck through the propeller. These fusing wires were hooked on the shackles that the bombs were hung on, and when they left the plane, it would pull the wire out.
Now the bomb is alive. If you've seen movies and you hear bombs going down, that's this fuse spinning out. Now the bomb is live, and once it hit, of course, it detonates. We had 2 missions where I had to go back into Bombay and put the cotter pins back in, and that is a little hairy. Why? Because when you landed, if you didn't, the bombs were armed, and if you had trouble, of course, you'd detonate.
Well, we talked about just about everything, our families, etc. It didn't matter what it was. We kept pretty much of a running conversation between everybody. It made the mission go a little easier.
First thing it did, as soon as we cleared the coast to England, everybody would test their gun.
Well, of course, I can only speak for myself, but when you're in hostile territory, and I was in the top turret, so all of my vision was 360, 90 degrees this way, you know.
Contrails formed at the tail of the ship. The moisture in the air and the ship flying through it made the contrails. And a lot of times you wouldn't have them. It depended on the amount of moisture in the air.
Couldn't see a prettier sight than that. Kind of spellbound, you know, spellbound. A beautiful sight.
Just watching it on the ground over in Germany, they tell me it took about 30 minutes for them all to come over.
They said on a clear day that the Germans could see us coming 50 miles out from the contrails. And unfortunately, when that happened, that wasn't too good because they were ready for us.
In 1938, I was down in Chile, and they flew a goodwill tour down there. I remember going out with my father and seeing these big planes. And I said to my father, someday I'm going to fly in one of those. Little did I know.
The B-17 was not only a beautiful ship, but it flew like a dream. It flew like a overgrown Piper Cub. It flew nice and smooth, beautiful. Took a lot of punishment.
The greatest airplane ever built, as far as I'm concerned. They brought us back 35 times, sometimes in condition that you would never even think of trying to fly an airplane, any other airplane. That plane came back, and that plane brought us back. It was a marriage, I'll tell you.
A lot of guys, they'd name their own planes, and they had all kinds of kooky names.
The original crews had a lot of good painters, and they had a lot of planes that were decorated and had logos on them and so on.
Vargas girls, like petty girls, Vargas girls, sexy girls. There weren't too many serious things. I think to keep guys loose.
Well, on a warm day, it would be 20 below. Sometimes it got 60 below. And oftentimes, I had to take my oxygen mask and crack the ice out of it and check if it would freeze into the tube. That was one of the worst parts of the mission, was the cold air. The only time you didn't feel it is when you were fighting fighters or going over the target.
Oh, at 30,000 feet, I think the temperature drops 2 degrees every 1,000. It'd be about 40 below at that altitude. In the cockpit, A little bit of heat came off a number 3 engine. It came into the cockpit there where the pilot and I sat. And it's enough to kind of keep your feet warm and your hands.
Our ball turret gunner had a gun problem. His gun jammed, and he took his gloves off to work on it. And both his hands got frostbitten, and he didn't fly with us for a month till his hands healed up.
Well, it was so cold on one mission, our co-pilot suffered an anoxia situation where he passed out and his hand froze to the plexiglass window. And then he had to amputate the fingers of his hand because it was so cold that his hand, when he tried to help himself, froze to the plexiglass window.
Well, the British treated us very nice, in some cases royally. They call it the friendly invasion because we flat invaded that country. England is a small country, and we had it absolutely covered up with American soldiers. And they tolerated us.
I was single then. I could run around, do whatever I wanted, but I didn't feel uncomfortable with the British people at all. Once I got to be able to understand the language, because that English language is a little different than ours.
Very good people. As you know, at the beginning of the war, they weren't too enamored by the Yanks coming over. They said we were overpaid, oversexed, and over here. I remember that. Flak is German 88mm cannon shells. Flak was responsible for more planes being shot down than enemy fighters. And when you see a flak, black puffs of smoke, that's after the shell, of course, has exploded. And it explodes hypothetically into 200 pieces. And it's powerful.
You don't know where the flak is coming from. You don't know if the next burst is going to hit you or not. You never know where the next one is going to be in a case like that, and that's what scares you.
Well, it just looked like a big thunderstorm, so to speak. That's what it amounted to. But you had to keep on flying.
God was on your side when you didn't get hit. The flak would vary so much. The Germans had pretty good radar. They could judge your altitude, your speed, and your direction.
I think the worst that I ever had over Kassel, Germany, I'll never forget that one. It blew my windshield out and coming to my face at 160 miles an hour.
You look at that flak out there and you swear you're not going to get through it. The sky's almost black with these things busting all over the place. It's amazing we did make it through as much as we did. Well, we had a dog, and it looked more like a pig than a dog, but it was our mascot. We had a stove in the middle of the barracks, and we used to make sandwiches on it and so forth. If the dog was around, we'd feed him whatever we had left over. He hung around the barracks until we got back. I don't know if he had a name or not. It was a faithful little dog, but it had a real wide nose.
Oh, you get superstitious. I remember I had to put on a clean pair of socks the day I was shot down. I'd been wearing the same pair of socks. Evidently, I think the pup got one of my socks and was chewing on it and then hit it. And I couldn't find it that morning. I had to put on a clean pair of socks. That might have been the reason I was shot down.
You ought to believe this or not, but somewheres around the 10th or 12th mission, I got to a point, and I know some of the other fellas reached the same thing, that they were feeling blasé. They didn't get us up to here, they ain't gonna get us here on.
I was somewhat superstitious. I always felt God would bring me home, and I mean that sincerely. However, I wasn't sure if it would be in one piece. I flew 5 days in a row, 5 missions. And I remember at a 4th or 5th one, you really didn't care. You were worn out. You wanted to get away from it.
I saw a lot of them break under pressure. Come back and told the flight surgeon, I can't fly anymore. And they didn't. Nobody pointed their finger at them and ridiculed them. Nobody.
Yes, the bomb run. That was the worst. It's because you had to keep everything steady. If you weren't on a bomb run, you could slide over once in a while and they'd think it'd miss you. But on a bomb run, you just had to sit there and take it. Try to shrivel up, I guess.
Well, the lead ship does it all. You just follow what he does. The lead ship, and then the 2 on each side, and one down there, and one up here, and around there.
I was flying right above the leader, and when you're watching him and you see the bomb doors open, then you open too. And then you wait for him to drop bombs, and when he drops bombs, then you drop.
We can't change our altitude, and we can't change our direction, and we're what you call sitting ducks at that moment.
It was rough, because any minute you were going to get hit.
Bombs are dropped, bombs away, and the first thing you hear is, let's get the hell out of here. Well, we make a sharp turn, and the group follows the lead.
After a while, fighters, tanks started coming in, and they didn't miss very often.
They'd be out 20, 30 miles, and they'd come right straight at your level.
You couldn't hit anything with those guns I had back there. By the time you saw a guy, he was gone. I mean, you see one coming, he's gone.
You don't have much time to shoot at them. If you get off a burst or two, you're lucky. They go zip.
He'll drop off, you'll slide down, and then he'll line up on you. And then he'll peel off.
The co-pilot was hit pretty hard when we were shot down. A 20-millimeter shell popped right above his head, knocked an eye out.
So it was high noon. ME-109 was back there blasting at us. And I heard the co-pilot, he said, "Jesus Christ, number 4's on fire. Get out."
When that thing is spinning and heading down, you're glued to your seat. You couldn't move if you wanted to.
And you're lucky if you see 2 or 3 guys bail out. We would count the chutes, and usually if we start to look too long after a ship that was going down, the pilot would say, "Okay, guys, off." We didn't want to spend too much time looking at a plane going down when we had, fighters in the area and so forth.
The gunners and the others that were watching all the time would tell you, "Boy, I don't think anybody got out of that one. Nobody got out." And then sometimes you'd see chutes coming out of them before they blew up or anything.
If you didn't have your chute on and get out of there in less than 30 seconds, you're gone. You're gone. And 7 out of 11 out of my crew got out alive. And one of them, when he got on the ground, they pitchforked him to death. How could you kill a human like that?
As we approach the field, we set off flares. Red flares means you have wounded aboard. Everybody else gets out of the way and the wounded comes in first. To this day, I still see it. When I think of it, I choke up. I can't help it. They were friends of mine. They were good friends. And it hurt so bad. Especially, we all felt like, what a waste. With the job we had, the chance of dying was at least 50%. 50% chance of living, 50% chance of dying.
A guy said, "Your name's on it." Well, maybe it was. But it was scary. And I get very irritated when I hear some of these guys say, "I wasn't scared one bit." They're full of prunes. I was scared every time.
I went out to a ship one time when they were taking a young fella off. And I thought I could help them. The guy they were pulling out of the ship, he was calling for his mother.
In about late 1944, the Allies decided to do away with precision bombing. We went to pattern bombing. Unfortunately, killed a lot of people, but brought the war to a close about a year sooner.
The United States military did not go out to carpet bomb civilians or anything. They went out to bomb factories, rail yards, refineries, and places that had something to do with the war. I don't think that I felt bad about that at all. That's what we were supposed to do. But toward the end of the war, the Germans would not give up.
Never thought a thing about it. We didn't think about people being down there. I never crossed my mind about a human being being down there.
Never gave it a thought. They just Germans, you know, and I never gave it a thought.
For some reason, I didn't hate him. If I had a fighter plane come within shooting distance, my thought was, this kid probably wanted to live as bad as you did. I really didn't have any hate for him. I was just scared of him.
Never gave it a thought. I honestly never gave it a thought. I just felt this way. They're going to do it to us. We better do it to them before they do it to us. And that's the way I felt, and I couldn't help it.
Bring any thoughts seeing that?
Oh, I drifted off into several thoughts. Most of them, you know, were bad thoughts when you're looking at a mission. I see what took place on that mission, and your mind drifts back to those times, you know.
We had a lot of mid-air collisions. Some guys would get mixed up, pilots, and they'd start flying the wrong direction and so on. But the scary part most for me was just getting through all of that.
Did it get easier or harder as you flew more missions?
I just, like I say, I was scared to death, but those were not good days.
There was no radio communication at all. We had the intercom going all the time, though, at checking the men with the oxygen mask on, make sure their oxygen was flowing right. Especially the tail gunner. He was laying back there by himself so much. You get very close to the men and everything. And they're all young kids. They're all dead now, I'm sure.
When you're that high up, everything on the ground looks like a little toy. If you see a truck or something, it really looks small. It was hard, but you had to do it. We had to get rid of Hitler, and so we did it.
You guys know that some bombs went through the wings of B-17s? I always wondered how in the world they were out of position in formation. God's been good to me. First of all, he's given me 70 years with that lady over there, and we have a wonderful family. We had 6 kids. And we have 20 grandkids, 22 great-grandkids. So we've been a very blessed family. I didn't say I want them all at the house at once.
What do you think about the good war and you're the greatest generation?
Well, I'm beginning to believe it. Does that make sense to you? I know you kind of grew up 10 years when you went into that thing. And when I came back home, I didn't feel like the same man anymore.
What do you say to people who say, you know, John, you're a hero, you're a hero?
I said, okay, you're probably right. I don't know what else to say. I wasn't one of them heroes that the guys that finish their tour and sign up for another one. I wasn't them kind of heroes.
I want it clearly known, I do not profess myself to be a hero. I was the pilot. The heroes are buried in England, Germany, and France. The boys didn't me. They're the heroes. I was just a normal pilot.
This is called pattern bombing.
No offense, but you guys aren't getting any younger. And why do you think it's important that people know what you guys did?
Well, for one thing, we don't want it to happen again, in fact or in fancy. We just don't want it to happen again. For my grandson, my granddaughters and their husbands, I don't want to see them have to face what we did.
I cannot say it much more eloquently. It was a hazardous profession. Okay, up at altitude, and of course bombs away and all, and you got this on. I think fear more than anything. You'd perspire and sweat. You got this on? Ice it for them. And you take a deep breath and break the ice out of the oxygen mass and then put it back on. This is Bud trying to get down on the floor. This is the Mae West. Remember I told you about the oxygen? I mean the CO2 cylinder? This is it. There it is, CO2 cylinder. This was before underarm deodorant, hairspray. I think this was the birth of aerosol containers. And if guys bailed out, they didn't want it totally inflated a couple 100 feet up, because if they hit the water, they could break their backs. So it wasn't that easy. I never did it. This is a throat mic. This is how I talk to Eric. And this plugged in. And as I showed you on the helmet, this is how I heard. So we had our communication system.
But Bud, to be clear, this should have been returned to the government in 1945.
Come and get them, baby.
Well, what we just did with you might be the credit roll to our movie. So do you have any messages for people who've just watched this movie?
Well, I'm just so glad that people in America or anywhere can get an idea of what 19 and 20 and 21-year-old kids went through. And as I tell kids when I get done with my talk, I'm going to ask you guys a favor now. What's that, Bud? When you go home tonight, you say a prayer of thanks to God for those 28,000 guys that gave their lives so that you got the life you got today.
Well, thank you for your service, Bud.
Not at all. Not at all.